It's literally been 48 hours since Trump was officially elected president, and boy, you can feel the seismic shifts happening around the world. Because you see, Trump promised a lot of things if he was elected, from ending ongoing wars to mass deportation. And all of these promises of radical change have created an atmosphere both charged with optimism but also anxiety. Global leaders are scrambling to anticipate what's next. The stock market has seen significant fluctuations. Search engines have been flooded with immigration inquiries about leaving America. Anti-Trump protests have erupted across several major US cities. And even key players like Russia and Israel have made a notable statement signaling a potential shift in global dynamics. Oh, and that's just what I can fit into the intro. There's a whole lot more. So, with that being said, like the video in honor of it being the 69th episode of the channel, and I guess, as always, let's get cracking! Okay, let's start this video by picking up exactly where we left off the last video, because what did we say? Most experts predicted that when I posted this video, we would be talking about how we still don't know who the winner is. But today, most of those experts are wrong, because not only did Trump win the same night, but he also won it convincingly. And it was because that he won it so convincingly that we know the winner so much earlier than the experts anticipated. He even won the popular vote, which he didn't even get back in 2016. And Trump has now become only the second person ever to get back into the White House after a 4-year break, which is now being called the biggest political comeback in over a century. Now, in the measly 48 hours since it was made official, Kamala Harris gave her concession speech in which she urged her supporters to accept Donald Trump's White House victory, saying, "To all the young people watching on the campaign, I would often say, when we fight, we win. But here's the thing," she says, "sometimes the fight takes a while. That doesn't mean we won't win. The important thing is to never give up on trying to make the world a better place." Biden then did his first speech since the defeat, and he said that he won fair and square, and he urged all Americans to bring down the temperature. He then called Donald Trump on the phone and invited him to the White House, as is customary for the transfer of power to the next president. Leaders from around the world congratulated Trump on his victory, including Keir Starmer, actually, who said that he's looking forward to working with Trump. And that's kind of off the back of those two having a bit of trouble recently. This one came as a bit of a shock for it to come so early. Putin said that he is ready to restore relations with the United States, saying that Trump's assassination attempt left a big impression on him. He said, and I quote, "He behaved, in my opinion, in a very correct way, courageously, like a man." And when he was asked at this conference, which he was speaking about a bunch of different topics for several hours, if he was ready to have discussions with the United States, he said that Trump's claim that he can end the war in Ukraine deserves his attention at least, and that Russia is ready to talk. In fact, just yesterday in Trump's interview with NBC, he said that he's already spoken with over 70 world leaders, including Zelensky and Netanyahu, and that as for Putin, he said that he will also speak with him soon. I don't have time to go over the whole list of all of the different messages that have poured in for Trump, but I don't know if Alex is just saying, don't waste my time right here, basically, because this is trying to be a one-day turnaround. Anyway, moving on. Now, in terms of how Trump actually is going to end the war in Ukraine, like he said he could do in 24 hours, he said that if he made it public on how he would do it, he wouldn't be able to use those methods anymore. But then the Wall Street Journal came out with a report just today, and they said that they have information that one of his proposals suggests Ukraine delaying joining NATO for 20 years in exchange for continued US military support. But then moving away from foreign policy, also in the 48 hours, Trump also appointed Susie Wiles as his chief of staff, making her the first woman ever to have had that position in United States history. And for anyone that doesn't know, it's a pretty big deal because this is one of the most important roles in Washington, non-elected roles in Washington. Trump claims that she likes to stay in the backgrounds, which is why you may not have heard of her, but he also claimed that she is considered one of the most feared and respected political operatives in the country. You also have other positions being spoken about in the White House, like, for example, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Elon Musk. As for Elon, who was a pretty big, needle mover for the Trump campaign, it's not exactly certain what position he would hold, but they spoke about the idea of him leading a new Department of Government Efficiency, which acronyms are DOGE, so I don't even know if this is serious at this point, but they said that it would be a position that would see him cut costs, reform regulations, and streamline what he calls a massive, suffocating federal bureaucracy. And then as for RFK Jr., Trump recently promised that he would play a major role related to public health agencies, and that he would spearhead the initiative Make America healthy again. Also, in the first 48 hours, we've seen across the country organizations and crisis hotlines catering to LGBTQ plus youths and adults. Well, they reported a huge spike in calls. The Rainbow Youth Project said that it received more than 3,810 calls in the first few days, which surpasses the average amount of calls that they get in the entire month. Trump also said that he would start initiating the long-standing mass deportation plan regardless of the price tag, because, as you probably would remember before he was elected, he said that he would immediately carry out the largest deportation effort in American history. And if you're wondering, how much would in American history cost? Well, the American Immigration Council's conservative estimate of his plan would be $315 billion. That's a lot of money. Also, speaking about Elon Musk, in the first day after Trump's win, Elon Musk's trans daughter vowed to leave the United States following his win, saying, even if he is only in office for 4 years, even if the anti-trans regulations magically don't happen, the people who willingly voted for this are not going anywhere anytime soon. California's governor has also announced that he will hold a special session for legislation to protect state laws from Donald Trump. And I mean, that's a pretty massive move because California is America's most populated state with around 39 million people. And Gavin Newsom said that he fears Trump will pursue unconstitutional and unlawful federal policies that would harm Californians in areas like reproductive health, climate change, and immigration. Oh, and just to give you a little background and context on this, in Trump's last term, California filed more than 120 lawsuits challenging Trump's administration's policies. So I guess 120 is the number to beat. Also, first 48 hours, Bitcoin and global stock markets surged to record highs. The Dow Jones jumped 3.5%, which is the best day since 2022. The S&P hit an all-time high. London stock markets went up 0.9%. Paris climbed 1%. Frankfurt went up 0.8%. US Treasury yields shot up to a 4-month high, and the US dollar surged as well, which all combined puts it on track for the best one-day gain in over 2 years. Okay, moving on to the Middle East. Well, in the first 48 hours, a report went mega viral from Newsweek claiming that Hamas called for an immediate end to the war after Trump's election win. And to be fair, yes, that is true, but it's slightly misleading, or at least it was taken out of context. Because a lot of people clipped the headline, just the headline, and then posted on social media. So a lot of people started to assume that, Hamas was waving the white flag saying that they're calling for peace. Rather, when you actually read the article, it says that a senior Hamas official called for immediate end to Israel's war in Gaza, which is not entirely uncommon. But in saying that, even though, Trump does have a very close relationship with Netanyahu, with Israel being the first to congratulate Trump on his victory and Netanyahu previously calling Trump the best friend Israel has ever had in the White House, Trump has also expressed criticism of Netanyahu's wartime leadership and has called for an end to the conflict. But again, just like the situation in Ukraine, we don't know exactly what his plans would be to end that conflict. All we know is that he claims that he could do it in 24 hours. But moving on, also, in the first 24 hours, we had the Taliban government in Afghan saying that they hope for a new chapter and to strengthen relations with the United States. And then, finally, and I mean, there was so much more than this. This is just like the bullet points, really. But Google searches for move to Canada have increased by over 1,000%. The searches also for move to New Zealand and move to Australia also rose to a combined 2,820% when it became clear that Trump was gonna win. Now, are the Americans that searched that actually gonna leave the United States? We don't know. I guess time will tell. But the question is, what do you think? Do you think all of the stuff that has happened in the first 2 days have been a net positive or a net negative? And what do you think that Trump in power means for the future? Are you worried or are you optimistic? But with that being said, I'm gonna wrap this one up so Alex can crack on with editing. I love you, and I will see you for a full news week wrap up on Monday. Have a great weekend. I'll see ya there.